Hello, work wife, Emily.
Hello. I'm
Good
so
morning.
excited.
Welcome to the Work Wives podcast, where we are here to help create work cultures that don't suck. So, we are back with another episode where you submit your stories, your questions, things you need advice on, your
Conundrums.
conundrums, and we talk about them.
Yeah,
So,
it's great.
anything, yeah.
How are you though? Before we jump in, what's going on?
Um, I'm good. We have like a lot of big clockwork projects, so that's been taking up my time, but I'm also nanny-less today and tomorrow, so just like trying to work that nap time empire's life, you know?
Yes, balance, just doing it all, just making it happen.
But I will make nothing else happen for the rest of the day. This is probably the only thing I'm going to be able to get done today. So go
Well,
me.
this is the most important thing on your
Because
to-do
then I got
list.
to take the girls to swimming later, and my dog is in surgery today. So it's actually quite
Churchy
a big
bear.
stressful day over
It's a
here.
big day. Yeah. And here you
He's,
are.
I know he's getting like some lumps removed, and he's so sad. And my daughter, my 3-year-old this morning, she was like, he's getting a big boo-boo removed. It's okay to be nervous, Churchy.
Oh, bless.
I know.
So cute.
He was nervous though. She was picking up the vibes.
1,000%. He knows. He's smart. He's a smart dog. He's also been in and out so much recently. I feel like he
I
knows.
know. He knows. So I'm sure that'll be a whole to do this evening when he comes home with big band-aids, you know.
Oh, yes. Yes. Lots happening.
So what's going on for you? My
Um,
birthday's coming up. Let's me not
I
forget.
know. Oh,
So
I know. You already got the gift. You
I already got a
opened it,
gift
used it.
months
So
ago. Yeah.
so you're fine. I am like, I cannot. Once I decide on a gift for someone, it's like you're taking this now. Like I need you to have this now. I don't care if it's a month early, 6 months early. This is your birthday gift.
Like if
Like,
you buy it, are you able to keep a secret or no? Like you
so
buy it early.
I used to not be, but I think having kids has forced me to know that like I can't just give them the shit whenever I buy it for them.
Yeah,
Because like I still want them to have something on their birthday or on Christmas. And my kids also both of their birthdays are within a month of Christmas. So
yeah.
like I have to have restraint or they would just be so spoiled.
What about with your hubby? Do you have restraint? Because I feel like I have no restraint, no cool. Like I can't not tell him. Like, do you want to know? Do you want to? He's like, no. I'm like, please. Do you want to know?
It's much harder with him. So what I've taken to doing lately is like involving the kids in the process
And that
because
makes
then they
you,
keep me honest. They keep me
yeah.
like pump the brakes.
Don't tell daddy.
Don't
Yeah.
tell dad, like
Oh my God, Kit's the worst. Like she can't, she's still so young, so she probably
yes.
doesn't understand, but she got so sad when she accidentally like told me what my Christmas present was like way before
Oh,
Christmas because she like went with Tyler to go pick it out and he was like,
yeah.
don't tell mommy.
Yeah.
And then as soon as she got home, she was like, Mario, your smoothie cup. Like she picked out this like pink cup for
Oh,
me that like she wanted me to have, but and then Tyler was like, no, you're not supposed to tell her. And
yeah.
she got really sad. So we were like, it's
Yeah.
okay.
The kids did that to me like one Mother's Day, and then I feel like Oakley learned his lesson. But this year for Christmas, we got James a tickets to a Toronto Maple Leafs game, which are very hard to come by. And we
Like
were
Savannah
sending
Bananas
him
tickets.
literally, but we were sending him with his best friend. So the kids had to keep their mouth shut for a really long time, and they did really well. So I feel like we've turned a corner of like
Wow.
them knowing, like them
Secret.
appreciating the
A
surprise, like on their
surprise.
end, you know?
Yeah.
But generally, I'm terrible at keeping secrets and keeping those things like full disclosure. Like my husband's grandma like passed away a few
Yeah.
weeks ago, which was really sad. But as we were driving from our city to their city, they announced like this huge concert and then like pre-sale was starting the next day. And so like, well, everyone, I just bought the tickets, like, and then I immediately like we're in between the two visitations. I was like, just so you know, I bought tickets to this concert. I couldn't keep it a secret.
Maybe you're like wanting to like kind of cheer him up too.
Yeah.
Like think about something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something to look forward to.
Just so you know, like I know today sucks, but
But guess what?
we're going to a concert in the summer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm terrible at it, but you
Oh
know,
my God,
but other than that, my kids are both at school
oh, thank
healthy
goodness.
this week, which is great. But next week is spring
That
break.
means I was gonna say that means they'll be homesick next week, but they'll be home
They'll be
anyways.
home. They'll be home. Yeah. So right now I'm feeling great. And we decorated our all year round tree again for a new holiday last night. We decided this year we're now the people who have a tree up all winter long. So
Yeah.
now
Oh,
it's decorated
winter
for
or all year? Are you going to take
I
it
don't
down?
think so. We had Christmas and then Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, and we're like gearing up to do it for Easter. But then after that, there's really nothing. And then we're outside more because like we're in
You should
Canada,
just
right? So we
like
spend a lot of
decorate it for
time
summer,
inside.
like summer vibe. Give it some summer vibes.
Well, that's what the kids want to do. They're like, we could put Canada flags on it, and then I'm like, but we're never inside. Like we're outside all summer, right? In the
Yeah.
winter, it's like cozy. It's like a good lighting,
Yeah.
And the cats chew the cord, so I feel like we'll
Oh,
probably take
wrap it
down.
up soon.
Yeah, but we'll see. So yeah, that's how we are. We're good. We're living the dream here.
Yeah.
Spring is springing.
Summer is summering here
Yeah, well,
in Florida.
must be nice.
Always.
Must be nice.
I mean, it's nice right now, and then it'll be Ms. during the actual summer. So
yeah, when I'm like basking in
then,
my
right.
gorgeous, perfect Canadian summer, you'll be like melting.
Right.
So
yeah, Kit has swimming
it's a
lessons
trade-off.
today, and I keep telling her like you have to learn how to swim for safety reasons, but also because you live in Florida and we cannot survive if you can't be in the water 24/7 in the summer.
1,000%. We're actually starting to search for our new pop-up pool this summer because my kids are tall, so we can get a deeper one now, one that will be deeper than my thighs. So
Nice. Why did I think you had like an above ground like
no,
thing?
I wish that's my dream, but we just have like the ones that you pop up for the summer.
Wait, this
Which
must be
probably
like
isn't
a
a thing in
Canada
Florida.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, because it looks like a full-size pool.
Yeah, so they're like they are, but they're like soft-sided. So you like thread like the poles and like you build it,
Yeah.
but it can't stay up all year because like if it freezes, it's basically like canvas, not canvas,
Okay.
but like waterproof canvas. So like it's not gonna last all winter. It'll crack,
Yeah.
So we just put it up for the summer. But it is like, like 8 feet wide or 10 feet wide. And like I think our current one is like 36 inches deep, but we're gonna go deeper. So
I just thought it was deeper for some reason. Okay, you can go deeper. Wow. It's exciting.
So exciting. Big things happening here. I want a pool, but James thinks it's like not a good use of our money, which he's not wrong, but then he doesn't want it.
Right.
I mean, I know like Floridians are like, how do you have pools up there in the, because it's expensive that for something that you can really only use from like maybe June to September.
Yeah, but you guys do summer like right because you don't get it. So you're like, you don't get as much of that weather, whereas we just like take it for granted. And we're like, no big deal. And you guys are like, no, it's summer. We're outside. We're in the
all
pool.
day,
we're
every day, beach, camping, pool, like water slides, water park, everything happening. Like it's so stressful.
And we're like, oh my God, summer's so hot. What can we do indoors?
Yeah. We're the opposite.
We have opposites. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Should we dive in?
Let's do it. Okay. You go first. You can read this one. This is a great one.
All right. This is from Boss Lady. She says, my assistant is 27 years old and has been working for me for 3 years now. We recently started implementing clockwork within our company, and she has been slow to buy in. In addition, she continues to bombard me with questions when I delegate outcomes to her, and I find myself in deciding mode with her more often than not. We have reorganized, and she now has 30 to 40% more time, but she hasn't shown initiative to fill her time with productive activities. What should I do? I need advice.
Ooh.
Clockwork one.
Yes.
Very clockwork specific
Very clockwork
today.
question, but I like it.
Yeah.
My first observation is what does her being 27
have to do with it?
I don't know if it's like
probably a stereotype.
It's a generational thing. Is 27 Gen Z? Because I feel like I will not take the Gen Z slander if it is.
I feel like that's like maybe on the cusp. Of like Gen Z / late millennial.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Gen Z, actually. I don't know.
I'm 35 and I'm like firmly in the millennial camp. So
yeah, I'm gonna be 37. I'm also very firmly in the millennial era, which is just wild to me that someone 10 years younger than me could be like also a millennial, but I get it.
Yeah.
But we're still so different. But I feel like Justin Bieber's like 29 or something, and he's like
this
cusp.
yeah, so according to Google, Gen Z was 1997 to 2012, so those people are 11 to 26. So she's
Okay,
the
she's like
cusp, a
right on the
cusper.
cusp,
Yeah.
which
This
I totally
person grew
understand
up.
cusps because my astrology sign is really on the cusp. My zodiac sign,
Oh, yeah,
my
yeah.
like Pisces,
Me too, as
Aries,
a
cusp.
Scorpio, Libra.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And James is my husband is borderline. He is like the first year of being a millennial, and he does not identify as a millennial at all because he was
Oh,
in
really?
college, like when the internet started.
How old is James?
He's 41. Oh, he'll be 41 next month.
Okay. Yeah. So he's like a Gen Xer.
Like, but he's a
Technically, he's cusp.
millennial, but he's cusp, like he
Yeah.
fully grew up, like, did not have the internet, did not have access to a computer, like, latchkey kid,
Yeah.
not and like not because his parent, like, just running around the neighborhood.
Right.
No one knew where they were. You know what I mean? Like,
I did that too, but I think
so
that's
did
because
I.
my parents were negligent. But
I did that too because
kidding, not kidding.
that's all we did. Like, that's how I grew
Right.
up. Like,
Yeah.
that's how my
So I
kids
think
grew
that
up
we're
now.
like on the later end of millennials. So that's fair.
Anyways, that was such
Well, I am
a
anyways.
tangent. But this
Yeah.
person is a cusper into Gen Z millennial.
So like give her some
zillennial.
grace. She might be having like some generational identity crises as well, but it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with what's going on. Yeah.
Right. Because anyone who is like, if we're going to generalize, anyone who is like in the Gen Z is very technologically savvy and comfortable. Like they
Oh yeah.
So I'm curious about like what the slow to buy in is. Is it the like it can't be, or I would assume
Tech.
it's not the tech or the processing, because like people, there's a lot of adaptation quickly that happened for those age groups. Like they grew up shifting through all of the tech things. I
And
think
like, how do we know that they're like not bought in? Is there something, that's what also what I would be questioning, just not because I don't believe you, but just what are the things that he or she has done to communicate that they're not bought in, and are those real, or are we projecting that just because they're not being quote unquote proactive in certain ways that you wish they would be, but maybe we haven't set clear expectations and so they're unclear potentially as well. Like, what are the expectations of me and my involvement in this?
Because so much of what Gen Z is fighting for is like shifts in culture, and I do think that clockworking your business is more in alignment with like progressive cultures that people are fighting for these days in terms of autonomy and like knowing your own role and those types of things. So I would be curious like what they're not buying into. But it's like the bombarding me with questions when I delegate outcomes to her. So I like, these are the types of questions like if you were a client, we could be like, tell us like what are your delegation tools?
Yeah, because what comes to mind for me is like, okay, you've delegated the outcomes, which is one piece of it, but does she have the correct information or permission to make decisions, or does she have the right information to be able to make good decisions? If not, that's a gap that you can help to close so that she can maybe not ask you as many questions. Also, it's like habitual sometimes, right? Like sometimes people just come to you because they always have come to you. And that's where that like formal permission comes in of like, okay, you totally have the permission to like and make these decisions on your own. And you have to be firm in not providing now the answers, right? Like when they come to you, what is your response? Is it like you just give the answer? Because if you do that, you're just reinforcing that you want her to come to you to get the answers, right? And to make those decisions. So I think making sure you have all of the decision, tools and information in place, not like outcomes is one piece of that, which is great. It's a great start. It's something that a lot of people don't have, but I think there might be some other pieces missing, or some habit forming that you need to like work on changing for both you and her, so that she's not continuing to come to you for questions.
Yeah, I think that's like the hardest and most frustrating piece, because it actually like it's on you to stop answering the questions.
Right.
Which
it is easier in the moment,
right,
to just be like, here's the answer, and now I'm frustrated, and like what? But it's really, the onus is also on you to be like, you totally have permission to go and make that decision on your own.
Yeah.
And use the restraint that you need to have to be like, I'm not going to answer that, even though I do have an opinion, or I want them to go, now that I've been approached with the question, like I do have an opinion, or I do have like, this is the decision I want them to make. But you really have to practice some restraint and hold that back if you want her to move forward and make the decision. Like, don't give your input, just communicate that. Yeah.
Hold your boundary, new boundaries, new behaviors. You know, if you continue to answer, they're going to keep coming. It's like, I hate the analogy of like, it's like raising children, because I don't want to belittle team. I'm a team member and I'm not a child, you know, but it is like training. You're training them how to operate within your company, not just how to like perform task ABC. You know, it's like, how do we operate as a company? And if you are changing that, there's a grace period in that being like fully adopted by everyone on the team.
Totally.
The last little point here though about she now has 30 to 40% more time, but hasn't shown the initiative to fill her time with productive activities. Always go back to like, do they know the vision? Do they know where? I say that like a lot of listeners of this might have no idea what we're talking about, but like in terms of clockwork wise, if they don't know the vision of the company, like they can't be proactive because they don't know where they're going. They don't know what to do.
There's no direction, you know, like people can be much more proactive if they understand where they're supposed to go. Otherwise they're just like clueless and walking around in circles. And so more clarity on that, as well as, you know, some of the other things that we talk about in clockwork is like making sure they understand not just like the vision of the entire company, but also like the vision and the expectations of their roles, right? Like maybe they don't know what they're supposed to be doing during that freed up time. But I think that's also a conversation that you can have. And I think that that's something that most leaders fail to do, is have good conversations, right? So it's like, if you are curious, like why, like what is happening in those 30 to 40% of freed up time, like have a conversation. What do you think you should be doing during that time? Like, what would some ideas for value activities be? Let's have a conversation about it. Here's my expectations of like, now that we've freed up some time, this is your primary role. And like, this is what I would love for you to do more of. Or do you have a culture? Maybe she thinks you have a culture where like, okay, I'm getting the same amount of work done in less time. This is great. Now I can just like clock out. And we have a culture that is like that. So, you know, maybe she's not like just refilling her time, because that's not really, to be honest, the goal of clockwork isn't to necessarily just like refill all your time if you're over capacity. Like maybe she was over capacity.
That's what I was going to say.
You know, like I have limited details here on this submission. So there's a lot still of like more questions that need to be answered. But yeah, like maybe this person was over capacity and now they have freed up some time, but maybe now they're just at a state of like where they're not going to be at risk for burnout, and they're just like doing the normal of like what's expected of them, right?
I was going to say, and like this is a hot take, and this is why I think this format of like CEO versus employee is interesting, is like maybe the reason why maybe the workload they have now is actually appropriate. And maybe the reason before they were coming, again, I don't know if this is true. I'm just throwing like all the scenarios out there.
All some ideas.
And you know, and maybe for other listeners is like, maybe the reason they came to you with like a million questions is because they were like so over capacity that they just needed the fastest route to get their stuff done. And that was you answering questions. So they could just keep slogging through their to-do list. And now that we've reorganized, I mean, 30 to 40% does sound like a lot, but maybe it is closer to a more appropriate workload. And so like, that's why they're not adding new things, because they were either burning out, on their way to burnout, or like were drowned. Sounds like they weren't performing well in their previous workload. So maybe this is more appropriate. So
just some things to consider, but I think a conversation would be helpful too.
Yeah, as always. Okay.
Hope that helps.
Yay. Okay, here is the next one. It's submitted by I Need Some Credit. Oh, this is a great question. This is something I constantly dealt with back in my corporate days working in luxury resort event management. My director of event management would take credit for all of my successes and would even have me cover their events when they wanted a lighter workload or to take time off, and would then lie about it when questioned by her management.
No.
What do you do when people take credit for your ideas and hard work like this?
This is infuriating.
So infuriating.
Especially like the lying part. Like
The
not
lying
even
part, right? Like if yeah.
okay. So she wants some advice, right? So
Yes.
let's like
Yeah.
break this down.
Okay. So director of
Um,
event management is taking credit for your work. And would have you cover events when they wanted a lighter workload or to take time off, and then would lie about it. Okay, so that's easily documented. Like it's
right.
very
Like I
easy
feel like we
go
have to
above.
like show everyone else that like these are your ideas, or like we have to find a way to like show other people if we want some recognition, and we don't like, because that's obviously how you're going to grow in the organization.
Yeah.
Is like you need to get credit for your work. Like people need to know that
Yes.
this was at least not necessarily all yours, but like you were a big part of it, or like you took
Yeah.
additional workload on or whatever. So like yes, documentation and like tooting your own horn about things maybe. Like
Right.
can we like humble brag about some stuff? Like
I love sentences like I'm like I like if it was like your idea and they like brought it to completion or something like that. Like, oh, I love seeing how you took that idea I brought to the table and brought it to life.
or like
Or
added to it.
yeah, or pitched it to the client because I whatever was in a meeting with so and so. You know what I mean? Like,
You're like, so glad you took my idea to so and so client. I think that's really gonna work out well or whatever. Or
yeah,
I'm happy to like
I'm happy they
flesh it
loved
out
it.
more. Or
Yeah.
if you have questions,
Yes.
since it was my idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Maybe don't say it like
and
that, but
no, but I do think so. Like but then like that's like applicable to. I think this happens in the workplace all the time. I think it especially happens to women in the workplace.
mm-hmm.
Where their ideas are like co-opted, or like they'll say an idea and then someone else will be like rephrase it slightly and say it like 1 decibel louder, and then
everyone's like, wow, that's a great
genius.
idea.
Yeah.
This happens in my household too. Like,
Yeah.
does this happen to you?
Actually, no, I get all the credit because I manage this house. So
Yeah. But like sometimes I'll be like saying something and then someone else will say something to my husband and he's like, oh yeah. I'm like, I literally have said that for like 3 years. Why don't you listen to me?
Yeah. No.
But like our therapist says it and then he's like, oh, that's such a great idea. I'm like,
right.
they just need to like hear it from someone else, I guess, which is fine. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, because we even say that in Clockwork, like people need to hear different messages from different people, but like
yeah, it's a little different than
we could have been here. Could have avoided that scenario if you just listen to me.
Right.
But no, I do think there's ways that you can stand up like in the moment for your ideas being stolen.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the like lying about it, like just go above them. Like,
yeah,
this is a very like, I mean, I know they said this was like this is a very corporate. If you live and work in a corporate structure, take advantage of it. Like there are ladders you can climb and there are like positions you can leapfrog over. Like if you're having problems with your direct supervisor, there's 50 more up the chain. So
right, to like go to them and be like, hey, I know so and so like said that they were at X event, but they actually were not, and I covered that event for them, which is fine. I was happy to cover for them or whatever.
Yeah, but like I'm really committed. Like you can even like word it as I'm looking to grow in the company and blah 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 blah, or like not that you're like trying to steal their job, but like I'm serious about this position, so like I don't want my supervisor's actions to negatively reflect on how I'm perceived operating in my role. Like,
yeah,
you kind of have to like put your elbows out and stick up for yourself in those kinds of environments, because clearly your manager isn't going to.
And what about going directly to the manager first for a conversation? Like,
I mean, yeah, that's like probably the right thing to do. I just feel like it's not going to yield anything.
Yeah, it might not yield anything.
That's
but like,
the first place to go, and then document that conversation.
I think we should go there first and be like, hey, I've noticed that like there's been a few times when I've come up with an idea and you've actually taken credit for it or passed it off as your idea. That really bothers me because X, Y, Z, right?
Yeah.
Or that makes me feel like my ideas are not being heard, or that whatever, like communicate how you're feeling. And then I would also address the lying of like, And I know that you communicated to so-and-so that you were at that event, but you were clearly not at that event. And that's a problem for me, or like that's an ethical violation to me. To like, I
Right.
don't understand why you would lie about it, because now it makes me look like I'm lying about, or like that I have to lie, and I'm not going to cover up
Like
a
I'm part of
lie.
it. That's the thing too, right? It's like, what if it all comes out, then you look like an accomplice or you were part of this,
Yeah, like I would very clearly communicate that like I don't know what's going on for you, but like I'm not going to participate in a lie. So
Yeah.
I am going to go to so and so or whatever. Like you could
Yeah.
even like give them the heads up or whatever, or just have that conversation with them in advance, give them the opportunity to communicate to you, and then
Yeah.
document that, and then go to their supervisor or manager as well, because
Yeah.
yeah, you got to look out for yourself. In like, I'm all for being a team player, especially like we have a small team. I feel like everyone like supports each other, looks out for each other, but like
Yeah.
also you do have to look out for yourself. It's your career, it's your, you know, future, and you can't let someone else just like railroad you or
Or
take credit for
pigeonhole
your
you
idea. Yeah,
or
for your
yeah.
ideas that are really going to be the value that like that's your value in the organization to some degree, right? So it's
Yeah.
like if people aren't able to see that because someone else is stepping on top of you, like you better believe they're gonna get
Keep doing it.
theirs,
Yeah.
right?
They
Like,
are.
they
Yeah.
are, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of sometimes you got to be a little bit more bold in those types of settings, because people are can be nasty.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those scenarios of like, you have the conversation and you give them an opportunity.
Yeah.
But they are showing their values, priorities, and if they do it once, and they'll do it 1,000 times.
Yeah, you could even be like, I'll give you I wanted to come to you first because like I wanted you to be able to communicate to management that that was in fact a lie and that you did not go.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will be communicating to
Yeah,
management.
it's being communicated.
Right. So like,
Yeah.
do you want to be the person saying that, or and that this is me like doing the nice thing by like coming to you first.
Yeah.
To
And
let
like,
you know.
it's not about covering the event. It's like,
No,
if I'm going to cover an event, I want
I had
credit
no
for being
problem.
at the
Yeah,
event.
like I had no problem covering the event. My problem is that you lied about covering the event,
Yeah.
which is just weird.
Yeah.
Because also
So
it's like 2023 and there's probably photos and selfies and like
you're telling
what?
me there's so much like, and like
How do you
beyond
just
that,
lie that you didn't come to an
insurance
event?
wise, who would like, what if, you know what I mean? It's like, what if something
Yeah,
happened, or what if the client has a complaint and like they come back to you and you're like, weren't there? Like,
it's weird. It's
it's
weird.
just
I
not
just can't imagine the balls on someone to be like straight up lying that they were at an event that they were not
right.
at.
And like, we always never know. Maybe this person has some stuff going on in their life and there's like, and like, that's,
Yes.
just don't lie, but just don't lie about it. Just be like, I can't be there. I have something going on.
I have no problem with them not being at the event. I have a problem with them lying about it. Even if you just say, it's personal, I can't be there. I don't care. Right.
Right. Yeah. So be a team player, but also like sometimes you have to put yourself first. And sometimes that's really uncomfortable. Like it's uncomfortable to like go to their boss, but if you need to, you need to.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. We ready for the next one?
Next one.
Good luck getting credit. All right.
Yeah.
This is from Unbalanced Betty.
It's a great name.
I love her already. I feel like I have created a monster. I'm so passionate about work-life balance, and now I feel like my team is pushing it too far. They wanted more hours, so I got us more work. And now they're complaining they have too much work and responding to clients with things like, I'll get back to you after dinner, or I'll catch up on this over the weekend. What even is work-life balance? I need advice.
Okay. So this like similar conversation actually came up in the Clockwork community last week, I think, because I shared an article about like what balance really means these days. And it was like a really interesting conversation and again, coming at it from our two sides, I think is really interesting. Because work-life balance is just a myth for one. It doesn't really exist. But I am not like going to deny the fact that it's hard to find what works for your company and your team and like keep it really regulated all the time. I just feel like the needs are shifting. And so like even the comment in the Clockwork community was like, how do I standardize something that is so personal for so many people?
Yeah. Good question. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. I'm
yeah.
curious what you say, because you're a huge advocate for
Yeah.
like
Work
whatever
life,
work-life balance
quote
is.
unquote,
Yeah.
balance, integration. And I mean, like, we've been having this conversation for over a decade, like in my own work life career, like
Yeah.
as I feel like cell phones and Wi-Fi and remote work has become more and more popularized, like it's becoming more and more problematic, right?
Yeah.
I saw this meme the other day and it was like, what did people do? Like, so when there was like no cell phones and like no laptops, like after work, did like people just not have
They
to
watch TV.
work? Yeah, they didn't have to work. Like you think
No.
about it now, right? Like,
They left
oh
work and the
man,
work was done.
work was done. Like that was the golden era, right?
Yeah.
But now this is why work-life balance is becoming more and more of a conversation is, and maybe they worked longer hours back then. I don't know if that's true, right?
Right.
Like
It's so different,
so different. But I mean, I don't know that I necessarily have all the answers, but I do think that there are certain things that are appropriate and not appropriate to communicate to a client,
Clients.
for
Yes.
example,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm
Like
okay.
I'm overworked. Like, no.
I'm like, I'll get to it after dinner. Like, just
No.
no, right? Like, I feel like I also have more context to this actual submission, but like this, I believe, was also on a phone call.
Right.
Like they told the client on the phone, they were like, oh, I'll get back to you. Like they were on a Zoom or something, and they were
Yeah.
like, oh, I gotta go.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
gotta
Like
go do dinner.
mid
Like
combo.
mid consult. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's not really okay, right? Like,
Right.
book it for a different time, right? Like this is
You
where
manage your own calendar.
you manage your own calendar. So this is where I think that like as team members, like a leader can communicate over and over and over and over again that like we want you to have work-life balance, we want you to be able to prioritize your mental health, but we can't like set your boundaries for you, right? Like so at some point you have to say, you know what, like if this is within that person's control, if it's not, then it should be, right? Like what hours can, like, do they open their calendar, what maybe does not work for them. I don't prefer like to set working hours, although I've thought about it in the past because like, oh, I don't want people working crazy out, like working all these hours. So, okay, let's set up a, 9 to 4 p.m. day. But that doesn't work for everybody because, you go get your kids at 3 p.m. from the bus stop, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just something that every day I know on your calendar is like, you're not going to be available at 3. And that's totally fine with me. And then maybe you don't want to work when they're home from school, but maybe you want to put in an hour later because you're working on something that feels, you're in the groove on or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I've never like dictated working hours because we also have we have people that work all hours of the day just because everyone is different, right? Like we have some team members
different
that,
rhythms.
Like, they wake up at like 4 a.m. in the morning and then they start working at 5 and then they work for a few hours and then take a break to like, be with the family or whatever. Vice versa. We have some people that like work until midnight because like those are the hours that they're most productive. I can't be found at either of those hours. So
nope.
I'm in my bed at both of them.
Yeah.
But that's okay for me, right? But I want everyone on our team to be able to hold their own boundaries of like, this is working for me or this is not working for me. And like, this is a boundary that I need to put up or I need to hold, right? And so I think that it's just a larger conversation of like, yes, you can, like, the idea of like, oh, she's unbalanced Betty, you've created a monster of like really being proactive about creating more work-life balance for people and then maybe feeling it's gone too far, like being taken advantage of like disrespecting clients. And so I think that maybe there's like some maybe there is some
parameters.
parameters or
Yeah.
boundaries that you need to put in place of like, yes, like you can, make your own schedule. You can, I don't
Yeah.
care. Like run like clockwork. I don't care how many hours people work during the week. I care about the results or like the outcomes that they're moving towards. Like if their
Right.
work is done, like take the day. I don't care. Like go do what you need to do,
Mhm.
to fill your cup. Not checking on anyone's hours. That's just part of our work life culture. But if there's a parameter or a boundary that I need to put in, like, but you do need to be at this call, right? Or you do need to
Right.
take this call with this client. I don't care when you do it, but it needs to happen this week.
Yes.
Or like one of our things is like emails need to be responded to within 24 hours on like our business days, right?
Yeah.
So I don't care when you respond to those, but like within the 24 hours, find a time that you're
Right.
going to do that, like that's a
Yeah.
non-negotiable. Now you decide for yourself, like when feels best.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think for certain industries, like it makes sense. Like, if the industry operates on like a 9 to 5, then like maybe you don't have to be available like the entirety of the 9 to 5, but there's an expectation of like in order to function well in this role, like you do need to be available to hop on a call with a client like 3 out of 5 days a week, like up until 5 p.m. some days. And so like that's just like how this role functions. And I think that's where the work-life balance and the reality of running a business can clash. Yes. It's like I know team members, I've seen it happen where they're like, the pendulum does swing too far the other way. And it's like, but we still need to talk with our clients, and our clients operate from a 9 to 5 Eastern Standard Time. So,
right. So we need to be realistic.
You got to have some time slots on your calendar that run till 4:30 or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. And another thing that this conversation brings up is also like industries, because I remember we were having this conversation with someone also different, not Unbalanced Betty, but someone else, where like they were in the publishing like space or like the journalism space. And they're like, when
a story breaks,
like we have to do the work. It was like PR maybe or something, something along like publishing,
you
news.
Think the Vanderpump Rules PR team was just like, sorry, it's Friday at 3, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Oh my God, no, they were
and
ready.
So this person was like, that's part of like what excites me about this role. And like maybe people who that doesn't excite them shouldn't be in this industry, shouldn't be in this role, because I can't promise, that these hours or this like work-life balance is always, but there are certain weeks when nothing's happening and you can have like more flexibility. But then there's certain times like when a story breaks, like you got to be on it, and I don't really care what's going on in your life, and that's just the reality of the industry. And that might be true for certain industries. Like I know like when you have like when you're on call as a medical doctor,
like a midwife or something like that.
That's just
a friend who wanted to be a doula, and then it just didn't work for her family because like babies come when they come.
Right. And so it's like as a team member, as an individual who's signing up for employment, you have to kind of decide like, is this the right industry for me? Is this the right role for like what I want my life to be like? And it's okay if the answer is no, but it's unfair to have expectations that are just not going to work for the
not realistic
for the job.
Yeah. I think there's also some reflection that sometimes team members need to make of like, am I pushing it too far? Like am I like, is what I want even possible? You know what I mean? Like sometimes you might have to make adjustments to make to like perform inside of your role. Like that's, I think I'm always leaning on the side of like, let's be realistic here. Like, yes, we support our team, but like we're still running a business, and like the business needs to run. And so like it's up for the leaders to say like, these are all the things I can offer you in terms of like, you can have 70% flexibility, but like this is the structure that we need to operate in as well. Like you need to have XYZ available, until certain time, like, and you need to kind of sit down and be like, this is the expectations of like, and I want to support you, but like we have to be available for these.
And it's like, if you're setting really clear outcomes and results for the roles, like if they're doing things or like saying no to things that aren't going to allow them to meet those role expectations or outcomes, then it's a clear, like, well, you're not, like, you can have more free time, but you're not doing your job now. You know what I mean? Like, I would imagine okay, it's okay to like not get back to someone until after dinner. Like that's not what we're talking about here, right? But if you're canceling client meetings or,
Yeah.
not
You're
communicating,
unavailable.
unavailable to like,
Everything's taking too long because your only calendar windows, like, you know what I mean? Like,
then like we're not actually meeting the role outcomes,
Yeah.
right? Which would be just not a good fit. Maybe it's not a good fit. Or just at least communicating that to the person. Like I can give you, freedom, flexibility, like you can set boundaries within your role, but you still have like these are the parameters, but you still have to meet these outcomes, expectations. And you're not
yes.
doing that in terms of like keeping the client happy or whatever,
Right.
whatever it might be that you have set in place. So I
Yeah.
think that's something to think about and consider as you communicate that to them. Because on the flip side of that, I feel like my team, as much as I tell them like, take care of yourself, work less, like I'm not clocking your hours. I know for you in particular, like it's been challenging over the
That is
years
so
to
hard.
like believe me that I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I really don't care if your ass is in that chair from like 8 to 5.
Yeah. No, but Adrian, my
Really.
worth is attached to how many hours I work. Don't you know that?
Yeah.
5 years on, still fighting that urge,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. So I get it. It's a really challenging topic of conversation. I don't think it's one that we're going to stop having just
no.
because the availability to work from anywhere, which is why as a leader, like we really have to model, like I usually like most of the time people are getting the message and the impression that they need to work more, right? That they need to work on vacation, that they need to work longer hours, that
Be
they need to like
available.
be available all the
But aren't
time,
you taking
right?
your phone? Like, aren't you checking your email? It's like, no.
No, right? And so like as leaders, I feel like we actually have to model like not working all the time, taking,
Yeah.
a sick day and actually clocking out and not just like
Yeah.
working through it. Yesterday, like my husband's been sick and he has like no voice and he's like, I really want to cancel this call that I have. And I'm like, yeah, you should, right? Like you can't meet with a client when
Yeah.
you literally can't talk. So I know that that's hard, but that's also like, that's the model that we need to set and
Yeah.
embody. And I I know that Unbalanced Betty maybe swung it too far, but I don't think it's too far. I think it's just like maybe
Settling.
have more parameters so that
Yeah.
you're both getting your needs met.
And I think on both sides in these types of scenarios, I think it's okay for both sides to share like, you know what? I didn't know that this would be a problem until like we tried it. And so
Right.
now I know like I need to set more parameters
Like,
because
oops, like you were just doing what I told you to do. And now I've realized like this part of it can't happen, right?
yeah, in
Or
order
like,
for me to give you XYZ flexibility, like we need to hit X, you know what I mean? And also just like maybe write a guiding principle that's like our clients can never know that we are busy, like, or that's not real, but like we just don't talk to our clients about like, oh, I'm so overworked or I'm so slammed. It's like,
yeah,
the clients don't need to know that. So we're like little ducks, like smooth on the top. Feet going on the under the water.
You don't necessarily need to know what you're doing. Like a simple like, oh, I'll get back to you on X date is fine. Not like I have to go make dinner because that feels like
you're
making dinner wrong. Is more important, or now I'm bothering you and it makes the client feel all sorts of ways, which like just So I think like just some more clear parameters around like what a better response would have been, even if you are okay with them like not taking a call at 6 p.m. Like
don't open your email. That's my number one piece of advice. Just don't look at your email.
Yeah, pretend you're back in like 1960. You don't have a phone, you don't have an email, like you're clocked out for work. And that's why our daily stand-up is so key. Like you're done for the day. So
you're done
see you
for
tomorrow.
the day. On that note though, we need to tell our team to like stop doing our daily stand-up. So like 8 o'clock at night.
I know. like we forget.
Like, I forget, yeah. Or like you said, I gotta go pick my kids up and then I just come back and I do like 15 minutes of work at like
that's been me too
doing
lately.
bath time or something.
That's been me too, because we've been like working on exciting projects, and like I have not been like really working that much throughout the day. Like today my nanny's gone, so like I really won't work. So like when I put my kids to bed, I might work for like 30 to 60 minutes, and so then I do my daily stand up, but I'm really not working like from 8 to 8, I promise.
No. Yeah.
I'm just working when it's most convenient for me, which is what I want for everyone.
Yeah. Okay, this was we're not short-winded. But we do have a hot tip we need to share because this is only episode 3, so we got a hot tip.
Yeah, we're a little nervous to share this because we don't want to make anyone feel badly, but we were sent like, we're asking for submissions. And if you have submissions for like topics, things you want to discuss, please submit them to dearworkwives.com. It's all anonymous, super easy. And obviously the more detail you share, the more we can help you, right? So on that point, detail, like, first of all, someone sent us an email in the dearworkwives.com, like message center.
Yeah.
Right. Which was basically a pitch for them to be on our show or shows. Cause we also have, the Run Like Clockwork podcast. But the problem is there was no like, well, first of all, this is not an interview podcast, which maybe you didn't know yet because like, we haven't
aired one as of
like as of right now, like we're just recording and batching some episodes, but like we haven't aired any. So like you maybe don't know that this is not like an interview podcast, but also the Run Like Clockwork podcast is not an interview podcast. And this is a blanket statement to everyone just in the business podcasting world. Like we get so many pitches for the Run Like Clockwork podcast for interviews, like to interview people.
Right. We don't interview anyone.
We literally don't interview people. This is not
unless they're clients.
Podcast. So did you listen to one episode? Like, did you listen to nothing and then pitch us? Like, it's just so lazy to me.
We just come up in your search for business podcasts.
It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
And I used to have a podcast like 6 years ago. It was called The School of Self-Mastery. Like it had some success at the time, but I literally have not published an episode since I don't know, 2018, 2017.
Long pre-Clockwork.
Yeah, pre-Clockwork. I still get pitches every single week for that podcast, like to
be a guest on it.
To be a guest on it. And I'm like, number one, yes, I did used to have guests on that podcast, but
you haven't aired an episode in 5 years.
Is look that I haven't aired an episode in 5 years. So why would I interview you for this podcast? Like, to me, it's just such laziness that it drives me bonkers. So
it's an immediate no.
Just an immediate no, because you have done zero research. So for this, person, same kind of vibes, right? Like this is not an interview podcast. The Run Like Clockwork podcast is not an interview podcast. And if you were going to pitch me for an interview, like you would intrigue me a little bit about like what we would talk about maybe. Why, even though I don't do, you know what would get my attention? I know you don't do interviews, but here's something juicy, right? Like
that your audience will love.
They will love if we talk about this. But this
or needs to know
was nothing. Like it was just like have me on your show. But I don't even know what I would have them on the show about.
Yeah. Because as we were like reviewing our submissions, I was like, oh, we're not an idiot.
And I had 3 submissions.
Yeah. I was like, oh, but like if there was like a really juicy like scenario, like never say never that we wouldn't have someone on to like talk about it.
For sure.
But like I need it to be an intriguing pitch. So
have me on your podcast. About what? What should we talk about? Give me something.
Vanderpump Rules.
I mean, yes, I would have let you on if that was what you had pitched.
Right. I am a production manager at Vanderpump Rules, and I want to talk to you about the toxic
at this workplace. Oh my God. Send me all the messages. I will have you on this episode. This is turned into it's now an interview podcast.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I'm not mad at this person. I really appreciate that you
the enthusiasm and the excitement.
I appreciate your enthusiasm for the podcast. I appreciate your enthusiasm for the Clockwork podcast. But I just wanted to give you some hopefully useful advice that like, if you are going to pitch people for being on their show, being in front of their community, taking up any of their time, like just give them a little more to work with, you know?
Yeah. Make the
That's
pitch
it.
intentional.
Yeah. That's all.
That's all. Little PSA.
A PSA that hopefully helps multiple people today.
Yeah.
Because there's multiple people. This is not just, you know, this happened for this one person who emailed us, but
Just timely. This
it's
happens.
just timely because it came up. That's right. But this happens all the time. So like, you're not alone.
Yeah, so many pitches.
But the problem is you're not alone.
Yeah. Also, like, don't waste your time. Like, if you're gonna put your time in, be intentional with it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, friends.
Alrighty.
Go to dearworkwives.com, go and submit your stories about your toxic workplace or the advice that you need, questions that you have, because we're here to help you create work cultures that don't suck. All right.
Right.
Bye, Emily.
Bye.